instead of the usual You Choose Interactive Tarot, I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. Tomorrow is the summer solstice here in the northern hemisphere, or of course the winter solstice in the south. What I'm going to do is an example of a layout I created. I used to call it the Four Seasons reading. Sometimes I would call it Seasons of the Year reading. Sometimes I'll call it a Year Ahead reading. I have yet to come up with a good title for this particular layout. So if you have any suggestions, please feel free to put them in the comments. But in any case, how this particular layout works is there's one card for each of the coming seasons. Like tomorrow, for example, would begin the summer season card, and it would last until the autumn equinox in September. It's not a prediction. As always, just guidance, sort of an energy weather report to help you navigate through things over the designated period of time. In a normal layout, that period of time is loose and ill-defined. It's just takes whatever it takes. It's the natural flow of things. In this case, the period of time is a little more defined. Therefore, it can have a little more margin of error. What turns up may or may not feel right to you. So take it or leave it as you see fit. In an upcoming episode of a podcast I have on another platform that I hope to repeat here as soon as I figure out the technical end of doing that, I talk about just exactly that. Reading on different platforms in different situations, live versus distance, that sort of thing. So you can go to that and go to the corresponding blog post for a written transcript and more details on that topic. And the reason I mention that is reading on YouTube and live videos like this is a little bit different feel. It's very broad, it's very general. It's more of like reading the cultural zeitgeist, reading the overarching energy. I don't get as good of a sense of time doing that. I don't get as good of a sense of geography doing that. The general zeitgeist energy feeling that I'm getting could be the local neighborhood, the region, the country, the hemisphere, the planet. I don't know. I can't tell. So when I'm doing a larger layout on YouTube, I'm relying a lot on your ability to use good judgment and discern for yourself what applies to you and what doesn't. And again, I can't emphasize enough that this isn't predictive. This is more like a general reading of the conditions so you can make better decisions for yourself. Make sense? Well, let's go. First, we're going to pick cards as randomly as possible, as I can do this one-handed while I'm filming. This card will be for the current season, which is summer, solstice to equinox. This will be for the following season, fall, which will be from September equinox to the December winter solstice here in the northern hemisphere. For you, if any of you are watching in the southern hemisphere, just adjust the seasons accordingly, go according to local season. So this, for you, would be winter going into spring. For the northern hemisphere, it's summer going into fall. Here we have the next season, which is roughly December solstice to March equinox. And this one will be from March equinox to June solstice, which brings us a full year. And then when I'm reading for private clients, I also pull one card that's the overarching card. It's kind of a card that's symbolic for the year as a whole. And when you combine those two threads of energy, it might give you a better read of what's going on. Again, not predictive, just a general read of the energies to help you kind of navigate the energies in the time ahead. First, for the summer, we have the Hanged Man. And the song Take It Easy from, what was it, the 1970s pops right to mind. So I don't see the Hanged Man energy as anything bad. It might be a little frustrating if you're in the mood to get going, get started, get rolling on a project or a life change or something that's really pressing on your mind right now. So if that's the case for you, try a little patience. Things may be a little frustrating. Things may not move as fast as you hope. So try to adjust and adapt to that as best you can. For everyone else, I hear smooth swinging, relaxation, take it easy. There's an idea that I've talked about with other tarot readers. One lady put it in terms of let the planted seeds grow. The tarot evolved in a very agrarian era in Europe. So there is a lot of planting and agricultural and farming sort of imagery that comes along with it, especially in the very classic decks like the Marseille and the Waite-Smith deck. This is the Waite-Smith deck, by the way. After you've planted, pulled the weeds, watered, there's nothing to do except let nature take its course. So hang loose, be patient, let the seeds you've planted grow and come to fruition later. Be patient and let things take as long as they take. While you're doing that, some folks may get frustrated. Other folks can take that as a prime opportunity to take a nap, sit in the shade, read a book, have a mint julep, and relax. Enjoy the downtime between planting and harvest. Make the most of it. Little self-care. But try not to get too frustrated. Things will take as long as they take. Go with the flow. Then along comes fall. And I get the idea here of critical mass. If I remember correctly, in physics, it takes a certain critical mass, a certain amount of like nuclear material and different things for a fast reaction to happen. Another thought that comes to mind is, I don't know if any of you experienced this in like high school chemistry or anything, but in certain situations, when you mix certain solutions, there's a sudden precipitate. You pour a clear liquid into a clear liquid and boom, all of a sudden there's a bunch of like white solid in the test tube. It's a common demonstration. A lot of teachers will use that as a little bit of an attention getter. It's a lot of fun. But it feels like that's the sudden change, the bolt from the blue that the Tower card is talking about. All the seeds that have been planted, all the things that have been taking their own good sweet time, all the things that you've been allowing nature to take its course about, will hit a certain critical threshold, will grow its critical mass, and then, ba-boom, sudden progress. Instead of sudden chaos, as sometimes the Tower is read to be, this feels like sudden progress. It's like the bottom falls out. Oh, I know what it's like. Remember that old game, Spill the Beans, where players take turns adding a bean? We're in the adding a bean phase right now. But at some point, that last bean's just going to tip things over. So this feels a little bit like that game. Again, nothing urgent, critical, red lights or sirens, but more like pacing. For general day-to-day things, the pace is going to be slow, plop, bean by bean, and then it'll hit a certain critical mass, and wavoom, there'll be a lot of really quick, fast progress that may be surprising to you. There's a bit of a startle feeling. Just like if there's a thunderstorm in the area, but there's blue skies where you are, a rumble of thunder can kind of startle you a little bit because you're not expecting it. If you're in wait and see mode, if you're in go with the flow mode, and then all of a sudden there's a big burst of progress, it can take you by surprise a little bit. Don't worry if that happens, that's normal. Just keep anything that's like simmering pots on the back burner, keep it in the back of your mind so you can react appropriately and still go with the flow, just go a little faster if that makes any sense. It's time to start swimming and paddling then, so watch for that key change in energy flow. Whatever season that happens for you locally, but just keep an eye out for it. First, slow energy, keep an eye out for a shift so you can go with the faster flow, if that makes any sense. The next card, which would be the spring card here locally, is again, even though it's a major arcana card, has a very pleasant, light, low-key sort of feel to it. I see the mental image of daisies and those little white flowers that grow in wild places, sometimes in your yard. I think they may be considered a weed, but they're little tiny white flowers that look like itty-bitty daisies. I don't know what they're called. But anyway, that's the imagery that's stepping forward. Purity, cleanness, refreshing, like a glass of ice water sort of feel. So look for renewal in the spring, which is very much in keeping with that season and that season's energy anyway, but it feels like it's a little extra boost to the renewal. That may or may not associate with the pandemic that's been coming through so strongly over the past couple of years in these YouTube readings and on the blog, I have to admit. I feel like there may be a fall flu season resurgence, kind of something going on. But it feels like next spring, things will be even in a better place than they are now. That being said, get your vaccine. Period. Science and intuition tells us that, so just do it. And that's the mom coming through. Wash your hands, eat your vegetables. Okay? Next, let's see. We have summer, fall, winter. Oh, I'm sorry. The star was winter. That would explain the icy imagery. Everything I just said about the card still applies. It just shifts in time. So summer, fall, winter, spring. It's an extension of the renewal. That's interesting. Winter is usually such a time of yin energies, kind of cocooning, hibernating, downtime. It feels like this, now that I have the card straight, the star card feels more expansive than usual for the Northern Hemisphere winter season. Again, the idea of renewal. I hear the phrase early spring, meaning that the intuition comes as words instead of images. It's not a literal early spring, but a more expansive, renewal-focused winter than is typical. Again, the icy image is very, very refreshing. I hear the words brisk and bracing to give you an idea of the energy. Again, probably not a literal weather report, but gives you an idea of the energy, the feeling of the season. So instead of kicking your feet up with the mulled cider by the fireplace sort of feeling that is typical for the season, the focus might be more on the January, February, snow, sparkly snow, cold, refreshing sort of feeling. And finally, we have next spring to bring the seasons full circle. Go from March to June, bring things June to June, solstice to solstice. This feels like a continuation of that renewal energy that begins in the winter prior, except that it feels like it's warming up a bit. That's where the spring comes in, the increased sun, the increased heating comes in. It feels like the renewal that started in the winter continues, deepens, becomes more rich, more real, more solid. And I want to associate all of this with mental habits, lifestyle changes, spiritual renewal. It's not so much a physical realm, career, or weather sort of thing, but the renewal that began on an emotional level during the winter continues and grows to an intellectual level, perhaps some physical manifestation in a change in habits and lifestyle. That's an expression of the mental and emotional renewal more than a primary renewal in and of itself. It's what evolves and expresses and connects in the spring. It feels like it'll go from the inside out instead of the outside in. The energy over the past couple of years with the whole political pandemic zeitgeist sort of energy that we've been talking about in the blog over the past several years feels like it's taking a turn. It's like the energy was outside in during that time. Now it's starting to turn and shift back and go from the inside out. Emotional learning, spiritual learning, and renewal, finding physical expression. That's why Diane Morgan's conception of this card is one of my favorite. I get it a lot. I use it a lot. I really appreciate it. She reads this card in her book, Magical Tarot, Mystical Tao. She reads this card as having to do with mystical unity, sort of a cosmic connection. So next winter into next spring, a renewal of the cosmic connection, a renewal of your connection with the thing that makes life meaningful to you, whatever that may be. There may be some physical expression of that, or it might just be a small inner shift in attitude or perception. Either way, it's a wonderful thing. Foster that shift as much as you can. For the year as a whole, we have the Six of Pentacles. Pentacles return the energy and return our thinking to the physical realm. This is a year of being generous. And I think perhaps it not only talks about the physical realm generosity that this card is associated with, it has a sense of generosity with yourself and others. It kind of speaks mostly to this sense of connection. Connect with what you do, with what you feel, what you believe. If there's a summary for this card, and perhaps even a summary for the year to come, walk your talk. Act as you believe, express as you believe. Authenticity and the true self. Just like in the blog post, I'm proud of you, that posted a couple weeks ago. I'll put a specific link to that one. It was a tough one for me to write, and I don't know if anybody will find it controversial or whether that's just the things going in my head from my past experience that I think someone might be uncomfortable with it because it was so hard for me to write. If not, it's kind of a joyful thing. So I'll leave it for you to decide if you choose to take a look at that post or podcast. But in any case, a joyful thing would be a good way to look at the coming seasons. Great, you get a little time to rest. Great, things aren't going to be completely stagnant. There'll be some changes and breakthroughs and new movement to look forward to. And great, there's going to be renewal and refreshment and a brisk, bracing winter, which deepens into a cosmic connection in the spring. All of which is a joyful, generous, supporting thing. So support yourself, support others as you can, and enjoy the coming year. Celebrate the solstice. It's the beginning of something good, I think. Finally, huh? In any case, this will be this week's standalone video reading. You're always welcome to come over to the blog and read the print-only content that's there. I appreciate your watching this extended video, and I also appreciate any likes, subs, shares, anything like that that you can spare. If you would like a reading like this in a private venue for yourself through email, the information for that is in the description below as well. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next week with another You Choose Interactive Tarot. See you later this week with a companion video for the Today's Tarot post. And thanks for listening. I'll see you on the print side. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.